What is going on YouTube? Welcome to the YouTube channel. My name is itsjeboyolaf and you can find me live over on twitch.tv/itsjeboyolaf. I make variety content there. If that's something you're interested in, you can find the link in the description. And without further ado, let's get into the video. On one hand, the Dark Souls fans are really like Elden Ring, it seems. On one hand, the other Souls fans don't really like Elden Ring, it seems. So what is this video gonna be? We're gonna talk about the main difference between Elden Ring and Dark Souls, because I think they look the most similar. And we're gonna talk about if you've never played a Souls game before, should care about this game. Maybe this is gonna be your new thing. Maybe you'll love this, maybe you won't. Let's find out. So this game in the Souls series is an open world game, which is a first. Which also introduces things like this, the big dragon. Originally, like, you had strong enemies in the overworld, but now you have like legit bosses in the overworld. Often you would walk into a thing and you're like, okay, this is gonna be an arena, there's something happening right now, or you're gonna traverse a fog gate. That's not here. This guy is hinted at by NPCs you find around this area, but he's something that might very well just pop up out of nowhere for you, and that's gonna be something. If you've never played a Dark Souls game, why do we compare it to Dark Souls? Why do we compare it to anything else? And why would you like this? And this game looks especially like Dark Souls 3, with a little bit of Sekiro in there. And I'll get to that point in a little bit. The reason it looks a lot like Dark Souls 3 is because the weapon art, and I think it's made in the same engine even. Only differences there is where the Sekiro parts come in. Rather than get good, you can use your imagination a little bit more. There are certain options that are made for stealth. There are certain areas that are made for charging in there. There's horseback riding, which is a new thing. So horseback combat is going to be a completely new thing in this game. You can jump, which is gonna mess some people up. Sekiro was built with this mechanic in mind, and certain areas in Sekiro you had to climb a certain pattern to make sure you get on top of somewhere where you gotta be. And there was generally one way to climb that thing. Like, yeah, okay, you can go to roof A and roof B and still, no matter which one of the two you take, end up in roof C. But roof C would always lead to, like, the area where the boss would be. There seems to be three kind of little dungeons. Things like this, which are overworld camps, which I believe, depending on the time of day, will change. You got a more traditional dungeon, which I've heard people say is a bit more like the Bloodborne dungeons. They are a bit smaller and faster paced, also a bit narrow. And then you have the big Dark Souls-like castle dungeon. The movement option to jump is gonna really affect us there, because as soon as dungeons are not gonna be linear anymore, you might have the options to skip a big chunk of that dungeon by just jumping off a cliff or jumping on top of something, which is going to be interesting. Next up, weapon arts. Weapon arts are the special skills you can do with your weapon. In Dark Souls 3 or in the Dark Souls series, the weapon art is dependent on the weapon you use. In this game, that's not true. You can interchange weapon arts with certain weapons. You can reforge your items to skill with certain stats. So for example, if this curved sword he's using is something I want to use, I can reforge it to work with intelligence, because I want to be a mage, for example. The only thing that's going to be a downside of this is that it might mean that your favorite weapon art is stuck with a certain build. So if you really want to use a weapon art for a mage, but you're not a mage build, then that's gonna be something that sucks. And that's something to consider before you pick your character or picking your stats. So as we saw here, we have a new mechanic. This is new to Elden Ring, which is the spirit summons. The spirit summons are something you can only summon in a certain area. Boss battles or very crowded areas with a lot of enemies where you might be overrun very fast, you can use these guys to support you a little bit. Note that you cannot spawn these guys everywhere in the world. There are certain like little statues that indicate that you can use these. If you think these games are too hard or you don't like the grind or whatever, try playing it with a friend. Maybe you and your friend both have the same thing where you don't want to grind this game or don't want to do the trial and error. Playing it together is a great way to get around that. Only thing I'm wondering is, in this game, what are we gonna need to summon people? That's the only restriction to playing this way. But it might be a very good way for new players to get into the game. So, we're now over at the Vextra Life wiki, also shout out to Vextra Life. And we're gonna talk about, if you've never played any of these games, how should you go about it? And is it something that you might like? We know there are 5 classes as of right now that are gonna be available from the start. So right off the bat, you are to decide what you want to be. Now, maybe if you've never played a Souls game before, you just want to go on with the easier option, which for Dark Souls games has always been either a strength build or a warrior build, in this case, which is dexterity. On the other hand, I think this game, because of the way that we've seen it so far, the Enchanted Knight might be a really good option for a lot of people. Using the sorcery seems pretty easy, and it seems like it has a good strength stat, because it says you can turtle with the best shield. You're gonna always start at level 5, and depending on what preset you pick, you get different stats from the start. Let's go over what these stats are before we continue anything else, so you know what we're talking about. Vigor is just gonna be your HP, Mind is gonna be your mana, Endurance is gonna be your stamina, which is gonna be important because you're gonna do a lot of dodging and running. Strength is how strong you are, how much can you carry, how heavy can your armor be, is all depending on your strength level. Dexterity makes it harder for you to get poise damage, which is a hidden stat. Intelligence is a magic stat, which is going to be used for the glintstone sorceries. And Fate is going to be the stat for the incantations, which are going to be for the pyromancies and the miracles. And then you also have Arcane, which is basically luck. Arcane, I think it's a really weird name for this stat. But all we know about Arcane as of right now is that it increases the chance of discovery in the overworld. In the older games, you had 3 kinds of magic. You had the miracles, which were based around luck and fate, I should say. You had the pyromancies, which were fate and intelligence, and you had the sorceries, which were mainly intelligence. I don't know why, but in this game we have a new thing called the incantations. Anyway, they put pyromancy and miracles together in one stat. Magic is a very wide term in these games. Sorcerers use sorceries, pyromancers use pyromancies, and prophets use miracles. Clerks use miracles. In this game it seems a little bit easier. You can either be a sorcerer or an incantationist. If that is a word. Which uses the pyromancies and the miracles, basically. Just keep in mind that if you want to cast a sorcery, you're gonna need a staff. And if you want to cast a pyromancy or a miracle, you're gonna need another item. I forgot what it's called. A sacred seal, that's what you need. And depending on which class you start, for example, the prophet starts with a sacred seal, so you can cast your incantations from the start. If you want to cast sorceries from the start, you might go for the Enchanted Knight, because he starts with a staff and he's able to do that. If you don't care about any of these things and want to pick them up later and just want to start with better gear and better weapons, go for the warrior or go for the bloody wolf. Those are the decisions that you have to make before even starting the game. Now, if you are like, hey, I might like this game, but I think it's too hard, maybe do it with a friend. You might fall in love with it. Now, if all you have ever heard about Souls games is that it's gonna be hard, this game is gonna be the most forgiving of all of them. Because you can be creative. Creativity might get you farther than get good in this game, which is gonna be a very important asset. Also, you have the horseback combat, which might be much easier for fights like the dragon we talked about. If you've heard a lot of fuss about Elden Ring and you're just here to figure out, hey, I've never played this game, what is it like? I've never played a Souls game before, what is it like? Let me tell you this. If you know every single spell they use in Harry Potter 2, you might love this game. If you got the slightest bit of interest in The Witcher because of the recent Netflix series, this game might be for you. If you have never played League of Legends but really loved Arcane, this game might be for you. It's a beautiful world with a lot of hidden lore. If you like lore, you can get into these games so deep. To be fair, they're not gonna tell you the story. All you gotta know is, hey, I walked past this guy, he told me to go up to the mountain, and up the mountain I killed this guy. I don't really know the relationship, but if you want to know, you can figure that out. You can get lost in this fantasy world that will make you, undoubtedly, fall in love with Elden Ring. If you like anything remotely to this, you might want to give it a try, because who knows? It might be your next gem. Leave a message down in the comments. Are you excited for Elden Ring? Did I answer whichever question you have? If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you would consider liking or subscribing this video, that would mean the world to me. I'm gonna be playing this game live over on twitch.tv/itsjeboyolaf. If that's something you're interested in, follow me there. Link is in the description. And otherwise, I'm gonna see you in the next Shoot You Care About. Bye.